Joy to be joined by my colleagues and today's presenters, David Gray and Danny Silverman. David is a senior retail analyst with PlanetRetail RNG based in London. He has spent more than a decade evaluating UK trends and now specializes in European grocery retailing with a focus on Walmart, Carrefour, Tesco, and Casino. In addition to producing popular reports for PlanetRetail RNG, David's insights have been delivered at many industry events and featured in industry publications. Danny Silverman is Chief Marketing Officer here at Clavis Insight. He's an established industry thought leader with over 14 years of experience helping CPG and FMCG brands grow online presence and sales. Prior to joining Clavis Insight, he led the sales strategy and support practice at Catapult eCommerce. Before that, he spent 8 years at Johnson & Johnson, where he was responsible for spearheading J&J's e-commerce strategy and capability. Danny, I'd like to pass it to you to say a few words.
Great, thanks, Paul. Excited to be here and joined by David as well. Just before jumping in, I wanted to take 60 seconds to introduce our companies and what brings us together. For those who may not know, the brands that you see along the bottom share a parent company in Essential PLC. Essential acquired RetailNet Group in 2015 and paired it with PlanetRetail, One Click Retail in 2016, and Clavis just at the end of 2017. Together this year, we are bringing these brands together to create the most accurate, actionable, and comprehensive e-commerce insights and analytics platform in the world. As these brands come together, we think about PlanetRetail RNG as driving go-to-market strategy and planning and really providing that deep strategic insight into how to go to market. Between Clavis and One Click, we provide the drivers and performance measures of how to improve at the digital shelf and are working collaboratively to bring our products together to provide that cause and effect type of analytic and insight. Combined, the three of us cover all of the best brands in the world that you might think of, and we're very pleased to count these wonderful brands and many more within our customer roster. As far as the agenda for today, we're going to kick this over to David to take us through Walmart's global digital initiatives. I'll then come back on to talk about how to win with Walmart with the digital shelf 6Ps framework, and there will be time at the end for questions and answers. So as you have those questions, do use the comment box on the right side of your screen and add those questions as they come to mind, and Paul will queue them up for us at the end. With that, I'll hand it over to David.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for the introduction, Paul and Danny. So this morning, I'll go in and look in some more detail at some of Walmart's key digital initiatives. To sort of kick it off, I really wanted to sort of use this slide to show you Walmart's trajectory and Walmart's increasing focus on e-commerce development. So to do this, we've used some of the PlanetRetail RNG forecast sales data on Walmart. And on the left chart here, you can see Walmart sales proportions by channel. On the far left is 2012, the center there is 2017, and then on the right there is 2022. And what we can see is that if you can see on the screen there, the purple area, that's brick-and-mortar.com, that's 1P sales. And then also the orange area is brick-and-mortar.com 3P sales, so third parties selling through Walmart platforms. And what we can really see is that between 2017 and 2018, these online operations, the 1P, the 3P, really increase in size. The 1P B&M.com business increasing from 4% of Walmart sales in 2017 to almost 9% in 2022. And at the same time, the 3P going from almost nothing to almost 3% of Walmart sales by 2022. So Walmart's really shifting its focus on e-commerce and on e-commerce development. And at the same time, we can see the red area on this chart on the left on your screen. This is the hypermarket and the superstore business, really the core part of Walmart's business. We can see this declining in share from 2012 to 2017 to 2022, dropping from around 78% to around 71% by 2022. This is really a business that's accelerating its e-commerce development. We've seen Walmart recently making acquisitions, forming partnerships. Its recent acquisition of Flipkart in India, an obvious example. And we've seen some other recent initiatives. We've seen that Walmart is now structuring more for e-commerce. It's recently appointed a new design head, Valerie Casey, who will look at merging Walmart stores, apps, websites into one seamless experience. So we can really see this is a business focusing on e-commerce development. And on the right-hand side here, the right-hand chart, these are the top e-commerce operators by net sales globally. So I wanted to give you a sense of where Walmart sits in the global e-commerce rankings. We can see really it's still much smaller than some of the larger pure play operators such as JD.com or Amazon or Alibaba. But Walmart's looking to increase scale through acquisitions, for example, through Flipkart. And the Flipkart acquisition, we're expecting that to see Walmart move up one position. So this is the Walmart's digital ecosystem as it stands today. There's a lot of things on there. This is a very well established digital ecosystem. But Walmart has in recent years been looking to expand and enhance this ecosystem. Walmart's been doing this through acquisitions, most notably its recent acquisition of Flipkart in India, but also through partnerships. Some good examples, which I'll talk about later in the presentation, partnering with Postmates and also with DoorDash, these intermediaries that provide some of the fulfillment capability for Walmart in the US. Walmart's also focusing on broadening its assortment, enhancing pickup and fulfillment capabilities online, and also new ways to serve customers, e.g. through voice. And in terms of developing its digital ecosystem further, one of the best and most recent examples is through the acquisition of Flipkart. So Walmart has taken a 77% stake in Flipkart. This deal will close in 2018. And Walmart plans to invest around $2 billion in Flipkart to accelerate the growth of the business. And really, this type of acquisition will give Walmart prime position in one of the world's fastest growing e-commerce markets. And there's obviously some real opportunities here for suppliers. There's an opportunity for suppliers to gain knowledge of Indian consumers, local tastes and trends in this fast growing e-commerce market. And Walmart's not only acquiring and partnering, Walmart's also seeking to make improvements to its existing operations. Some big recent improvements to its existing website. We can see on the left there two images of the new look website. On the right, the top right image, that's the old website. And then on the bottom right, you can see an image of the new look website. I'll talk through a few of the new features. So Walmart is increasingly looking to act like a non-food specialist in some key non-food categories, such as its Lord & Taylor flagship, which it has launched. It has also relaunched its mobile application as part of the refresh, so targeting mobile as well. And on this point about mobile, Walmart has been enhancing its apps, its app capability to create a frictionless in-store experience. So it's recently relaunched its app to essentially make the shopping trip more convenient. So this app features a store assist feature which activates on entering the store. Customers can compile lists, check local stock in store, locate items in store. So a big part of this project was actually mapping at 4,700 US outlets, so that the app can actually direct customers to a particular product or category in store. The app knows where these products are. So a lot of work going on there around mobile and digital connectivity when customers enter the store. And Walmart's also seeking partnerships to enhance its offer. We talked a bit about DoorDash and Postmates in the US, those fulfillment intermediaries, but it's also seeking partnerships with leading online retailers in international markets. A good example of that is the partnership Walmart has formed with Rakuten in Japan to launch an online grocery service. So this online grocery service will launch in the second half of 2018. The service will be called Rakuten Seiyu Net Super, offering increased fulfillment capacity, improved user convenience, and really importantly, leveraging Rakuten's big data expertise. And the message I really want to make here is that Walmart is increasingly seeking partners to enhance its own e-commerce business and its own capabilities in e-commerce, whether that be partnering with Rakuten, acquiring Flipkart, partnering with Postmates, DoorDash in the US. Walmart is now increasingly seeking these partners in the US and also in international markets. And Walmart, in terms of supply chain and fulfillment, Walmart is getting products to customers in new ways. We've looked at 4 key areas here in terms of initially sources of inventory. So obviously standard fulfillment centers supplying stores, but also the point I wanted to make here is around increasingly looking to use stores as fulfillment hubs for the online business. Image on the bottom left shows the Sam's Club stores. Some of those will be converted to support online fulfillment. In terms of home delivery, increasing the number of products available for 2-day for faster shipping. In terms of pickup, receive options, a number of options available: in-store pickup, lockers, standalone drive, curbside pickup. And then also looking at some new technologies around automated pickup towers and also some partnerships too. I'll just look into a few of these initiatives in a bit more detail for a few more moments. So around partnerships, we've talked quite a bit about partnerships, but Walmart is seeking partnerships in the US predominantly to increase online grocery coverage. It's extended its existing Postmates partnership. It's also teamed up with DoorDash for online grocery fulfillment. And the overarching aim here is that Walmart wants to be able to be in a position to reach 40% of US households. And the best way, or the fastest way it can actually achieve this, is actually to partner with some of these fulfillment intermediaries like Postmates, DoorDash, and obviously the biggest is Instacart as well. And Walmart's also utilizing new technologies to ensure a seamless pickup process. So Walmart has been introducing these collection towers. They're now in the US, also been trialed in the UK, the UK Asda business. They're really ramping up the number of towers they're going to be operating. The original target was for 100 towers. That's now been increased to a target for 500 of these, to have these towers in 500 stores. And there's some obvious benefits for Walmart. Number one being potential efficiency improvements, the need for fewer staff in store, very, very important, but also an improvement for the customer in terms of ease of picking their orders. And in terms of fulfillment, increasingly we're seeing Walmart look to sort of leverage some of its existing assets, some of its existing stores to support online fulfillment. The best example of this at the moment is the Sam's Club example, where the company is converting 12 stores to be online fulfillment hubs to support its online business. This is obviously a very, very efficient way of enhancing your online fulfillment capability. Walmart already has the stores. There's no need for large capex investments in new expensive distribution centers, such as has been the Amazon model. And really a point I wanted to make is this isn't just a Walmart phenomenon. We've seen other retailers go down this route using stores to support online fulfillment. We've got Carrefour in France that has been talking about using excess store space to support online fulfillment. We've got Tesco in the UK with a number of dark stores in very densely populated areas of the country. So this is not a new phenomenon, but Walmart in the US is now also looking to leverage some of its store network in this way. So now I'll pass back to Danny.
Great, thanks, David. So let's talk a little bit now about how we bring that into the online store and create a winning model for success. One of the important things to know if you're relatively newer to e-commerce is that as I'll go into a little bit more detail, the classic 4Ps model, the classic brick-and-mortar model doesn't extend into e-commerce. And this cartoon actually does a really nice job of kind of exemplifying exactly why that is. Our shoppers are walking into the aisles of Walmart, and where we're used to interrupting them with a PDQ or a display, their heads are increasingly down. They're looking at their phones, they're looking at a shopping list. They might even be comparing prices online on Walmart.com or possibly even Amazon.com, perish the thought. And so what we've moved is from a push model to a pull model. So if you think about the 4Ps model, product, price, place, promotion, those were all driven by a physical shelf. In the online world, and this is largely driven by Amazon's flywheel model, which has set the benchmark that most retailers are largely either rushing to copy or catch up to or create their own version of. At the end of the day, e-commerce is more algorithm driven. It's about automation and logic triggers and understanding what drives that automation and those algorithms so that your products are presented in the best possible way and shoppers see them and are more likely to purchase them when they're in that pull environment as opposed to a push in a physical store. So what we've done is we think about this in the form of our 6Ps e-commerce intelligence platform, and there are 5 Ps that represent what brands have control over. So brands can set assortment and control supply chain with Walmart. They can work with Walmart on where the products are placed in the retailer hierarchy. Price is based first and foremost on the cost of goods that the manufacturer sells to the retailer on, and then from there, through joint business planning in terms of how prices work with Walmart, with other retailers. Of course, working with Walmart on your promotions and trade spend from both offline, but importantly for this conversation, online, and finally optimizing the product page to create that perfect set of content. When brands influence those inputs effectively, they can measure the results through outputs, traffic and conversion, sales and share, as well as share of search, which is also an important proxy to understand whether or not brands are being effective in their other efforts. But when you get those 5 Ps running, it drives performance, which is that center element of traffic conversion, sales, share, and share of search. I have logos of Clavis and OneClick here just to kind of understand and depict exactly the role that Clavis and OneClick have historically played separately. Increasingly together, these gears will come together into a unified product to create that full 6 Ps view of what's causing my results and my performance and what I can do to improve upon it. As we dive into each of the 6 Ps, we'll just cover them each briefly, a little bit more onto the product side and product availability. Keeping products in stock can be a little bit harder online. In the offline world, you have back stock on the shelf, you have back stock in the store, and you have a distribution chain of fulfillment centers and distribution centers. Online, Walmart, like other retailers, keep a leaner inventory, a little bit more of a just-in-time mindset. And so really understanding not only where your products are listed on the site and are they optimally placed, but also is the product in stock? And if not, is it an issue with Walmart? Is it an issue with your supply chain? We think about placement in terms of the navigation, slightly different way of thinking about it versus the physical store. In many cases, you have the opportunity to cross-list products across categories. So where you might have historically had your brand sit in the physical store, there might be other connections. So one of my favorite examples was a nutrition bar that we were working with that was well positioned in breakfast bars and energy bars, but there was one product in the line that had a protein element to it. We cross-listed it in with protein powders and protein shakes and other protein products, and immediately saw a sales bump as a result from those who might not have otherwise discovered that as a protein product. Price and promotions are fairly self-explanatory, wanting to measure how your brands are doing versus competitors, particularly on those high-profile products, and the promotions that are running against it. Are they being effective? Calendaring your promotions against your competitors so you can look back and understand, first and foremost, that what happened, but then also use that kind of data and analytics for compliance with Walmart to ensure that what you've negotiated with them, you have taken the proof of performance into your own hands and have the evidence from an analytics and data standpoint to prove if something didn't run as expected and to be able to use that for negotiation power. The other place where price really hits the road in e-commerce is this question of who moved first and who followed. In the world of dynamic pricing in e-commerce, we hear this constant tension. I certainly experienced it in my days at J&J, and pretty much any customer we work with faces at some point this challenge from Walmart, which is Amazon is dropping price and we're going to match it and you have to cover it, or some version of that. Perhaps Amazon is challenging Walmart. There's a margin issue, there's a profitability issue. And at the end of the day, everybody's blaming everybody else and saying, no, it's the other guy who moved first and I'm just matching. So having real-time analytics where you can go down to even as frequently as every 10 minutes to go faster than the algorithms and be able to capture things like in-stock promotions, but also everyday price, and really get to the root of who moved on price first and who followed. And then from that point, what were the other movements? Did one retailer go back up? Did a third one come in and drop down? And having that intelligence to be able to more effectively negotiate a better joint plan with your retailers. On the promotion side, we certainly know our merchandising, percent off, buy one, get one free, but also consider the role of paid search and display, particularly with products that have less visibility and aren't performing as well in search, where you want to be driving traffic to those product pages by buying your way into the top of the or above the folds and having those really great placements that compete with your other competitors as well as third-party listings. And then we get to content. We all know everything is about content. And the really key insight here, again, if this is a fairly new category or topic for you, is that in the brick-and-mortar world, the sales side relies on marketing to put together great packaging that pops its shelf. And it's designed to pop its shelf from a shopper distance of, say, 2 to 3 feet away from the shelf. Historically, we've always taken the brand image, the product image, and applied it online, and that's your product image. But the problem is those images are not optimized. If you're now on your phone, a mobile phone, that image is now smaller than a fingernail, and yet 70% of click decisions are driven by that image, not by the title or anything else in the search results. So getting that product image right, making sure that you show up in search, that you're keyword optimized on your titles, feature bullets, and descriptions is absolutely critical. The product detail page is the oxygen for your product, regardless of how it's shopped, whether it's voice, whether it's mobile, whether it's subscription, whether or not the product shows up and how well it shows up. It all comes down to how optimized the content is on the product detail page. One Walmart-specific example is for those who've worked with Amazon before, we know the concept of brand stores have been around for a long time. They've been around for a while. You'll remember brand stores even from drugstore.com when they were around. What's interesting about Walmart's approach here is that it's a much more brand-centric view of it. In the world of Amazon, you can find the brand store. It might be at the top of the page in some cases, but it's not always something that's easy to find, whereas Walmart has taken a little bit more of a direct approach where these brand pages are easier to find. You can shop the collection. You can go to the product detail page. When you're looking in your search results, these brand store options are much more likely to come up, or even in line with search results, you might see some of these more detailed brand experiences to help drive that interest in the page, ultimately click and conversion. And then the last element of perfect page is don't forget ratings and reviews. A lot of times we think about reviews as consumer-generated content, what people are saying, so on and so forth, and that's 100% true. But from a pure algorithm standpoint, product pages rise and fall on whether or not you have a minimum number of reviews and whether or not you have a high rating for the product. It ultimately is going to determine whether shoppers click on the product and how well that item will perform. So absolutely, you want the text and analytics. You want to know what shoppers are saying about your products. You want a process in place to respond to one-star reviews, where perhaps your customer service department is poised to be able to respond to one-star reviews. But from a pure algorithm standpoint, making sure that you work with Walmart and other retailers, if be the case, to make sure that you have that minimum number of reviews. And if you do have a rating issue, that you work with the brand teams and whomever else to address what the issue is that shoppers are complaining about, so you can get that rating worked up over time. And then finally, on a performance basis, sales and share is critical. There's a number of tools available directly through Walmart to, of course, monitor your sales performance. We have some performance measurements as well. We have a version of market share for Walmart that is coming later this year that we're very excited about. But in the meantime, what we see most clients do as a proxy to have something apples to apples across all retailers is use share of search as that metric. As I highlighted, if you're optimizing the first 5 Ps, then you're winning on search and you're winning versus competitors. You want to make sure that you own that first page. Some of our customers will define that as the first 15 or 20. We have some who prefer top 10. We have some who say, if I'm not in the top 3, it doesn't matter, because we know there's a huge drop off in clicks after you get below the fold and you drop below the first 3 search results. So just a quick recap on that, and then we'll move into our Q&A portion. Use the 6 Ps framework ultimately to understand how to prioritize actions, to understand the drivers behind Walmart and other retailer algorithms, and drive action. Make sure you have the data and insight in place to be able to address any supply challenges that come up. I did not talk specifically to click and collect due to lack of time, but having analytics down to the store level and understanding at the store level, at the point of click and collect, are your products in stock? What does zone pricing look like? Can be really important to how you partner with Walmart. Of course, reviewing product detail pages for content compliance and optimization is critical to driving conversion and traffic to your page. Traffic to your page and conversion into a sale. Understanding where your products rank overall in search and where they show up in navigation is critical to discoverability. And finally, of course, optimize your trade and media spend. Have the analytics and data to prove performance of Walmart and of other retailers to make sure that they've been compliant with the plan that's been agreed to. Understand what your competitors are performing and optimize that trade spend moving forward to be as effective as possible. Thank you for your time and listening through how we approach the 6 Ps. And with that, Paul is queuing up our Q&A, and I'll hand it back to Paul to facilitate that portion of the webinar.
Great. Thank you, David. And thank you, Danny, for those wonderful insights. Really exciting to see what this major retailer is doing in the digital space. First question is over to David. So what do you make of Walmart's recent acquisition of Flipkart, and could some of the trends that they're seeing in that market potentially make its ways to other markets?
Thanks. Yeah, it's a very good question there. Yeah, I think the acquisition of Flipkart really demonstrates Walmart's increasing shift to focus more on digital, to focus on using digital potentially as a market entry approach. For example, in India, also its shift to focus on digital and use of partners. I think a really big point I'd like to make is that this acquisition specifically of Flipkart will allow it to access one of the fastest growing e-commerce markets in the world. So helping Walmart capture a really, really big opportunity in terms of e-commerce in India. So yeah, I think it really just shows the direction of travel for Walmart. It's to increasingly target digital, form partnerships, make acquisitions in that space.
Great. Thanks, David. Danny, this one might be a good one for you. Can you share any information or potential advantages about going or leveraging a 1P or 3P model, certainly in online retail stores?
Yeah, the historically third-party sellers have been more of an issue or a problem for brands and manufacturers, where third parties were selling products that were not sourced directly from the manufacturer and eroding direct sales and revenue with that online retailer, Amazon or Walmart. Increasingly, we do have clients who see the third-party marketplace as an opportunity to list products that may have either been delisted by Walmart or another retailer they're working with, or for whatever reason, Walmart doesn't want to add it to their online site. It might be a special pack circumstance. It could be a holiday specific or a once in, once out type of product where it doesn't make sense to set it up for permanent distribution, but to set it up through marketplace can be a viable option. There's two paths to doing that. One is identifying reputable third-party sellers. There are a few out there that I tend to see be so-called white-hatted more often than others, where those third-party sellers are buying product from the manufacturer through a legitimate distribution channel. The other way would be to leverage a direct consumer capability that the manufacturer may already have if they have their own online store, and if not, to consider setting up an in-house solution for how you would fulfill directly. A direct consumer site does not make sense for most brands or all brands, but a direct consumer capability does make sense so that you can use it to support marketplaces such as Walmart's and Amazon's.
Great. Well, here's a question I can answer. Yes, the slides and recording will be available. They will be available in about the next 2 business days. So make sure to check your email on that piece, and certainly they'll also be shared socially. David, I wanted to have one for you here. So what immediately sticks out to you about Walmart's new website?
I think that's a good question. I think one of the main things that sort of sticks out to us in terms of Walmart's relaunch website is its focus on acting a bit more like a non-food specialist in some key non-food categories such as clothing. So we've seen the flagship clothing store that they've developed. Also, an increasing focus on sort of personalization for the individual shopper. I think the relaunch of the website is also around trying to attract some more affluent shoppers through what they've done with non-food, specifically with the clothing website, where they're acting a bit more like a non-food specialist. So using that to attract some more affluent shoppers, potentially drive margin as well. I think they've definitely made some good improvements there.
Yeah, David, I fully agree with that. What strikes me about the new site, and building on what you said, is how much more visual and how much more engaging the site is. From a usage standpoint, 2 things jumped out at me. One, you immediately see at the top right an offer to go to Walmart Grocery, clearly representing their emphasis on that click and collect and delivery model that they are trying to win in. And if you then go to the navigation, the very first thing you see is premium brands from Lord & Taylor. At least that's what I see in my browser, which again immediately starts to communicate on Walmart's looking to go after that more affluent shopper. One thing I would note that hasn't changed is that when you do get down to the product detail page, I'm not going to rehash what I said earlier about optimization of the page, but it does continue to strike me that it is still very much, at the end of the day, a product experience, a one product at a time experience. I'm still looking for Walmart or another retailer to really think about the shopper experience that they're used to at the physical shelf and bring that online, where they're not used to shopping one item at a time, but rather a planogram. So I think they've made tremendous progress. I think it's a great visually striking site, arguably better than Amazon, but continuing to watch for more innovation in the space and hope to see that to drive more shopper adoption of e-commerce.
Great. Here's another one. Actually, Danny might be a good first start at this one, and then we potentially could punt to David. But how could known brands compete against private label? Certainly on Walmart, but on Amazon as well, so on the digital shelf.
Competing with private label brands?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. It's arguably a bigger issue right now on Amazon, where they continue to launch new house brands, and these house brands are built on the back of insight from both 1P, big CPG, big manufacturer insights, as well as insights from third-party marketplace sellers, making them very powerful propositions. And in some cases, we are seeing brands built by Amazon that specifically are designed to replicate a major big manufacturer brand, and not in a private label format, but even in language and tone and look, which is much more aggressive. The same rules apply, however, on Walmart with private label, with house brands on Walmart, with house brands on Amazon, which is manufacturers, by and large, have deeper resources than any retailer would. You know the shopper better, the consumer better, the product usage better, the budgets are bigger, and there's more opportunity to really leverage that legacy of trust and credibility on your own brands to compete with private label. It's the classic story. It's the same as how you compete with private label in the physical store. You need to have the better story. You need to have the better proposition, a higher quality product. But then you really have to have the assets and the content and the focus to make sure that your brands show up above and better than the private label or house brands.
Great. David, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I just sort of reflect on some of the points from Danny. I think, the point about having a really strong brand story, a really strong brand, creating really higher quality products that are more appealing than private label. Those sorts of things are really, really very, very important in competing against private label.
Great. Then impulse products. So certainly, the chocolates and more the impulse buys by the register. Have you seen any good examples of how these brands are able to transition to the digital shelf and, capitalize on some of that revenue opportunity? I believe there might have been a great example potentially in the Walmart piece that was produced by PlanetRetail. David, any insights on that one?
So I missed the question there. What was the...
Oh, sorry. Sorry, it was such a good one. So the concept of impulse brands, so the chocolate brands or the candy brands, have you seen any good examples of those brands being able to transition their presence on the digital shelf? So they're in essence being able to get those impulse buys online, such as the Hershey's example from your piece. Yeah. So the Hershey's, I think Hershey's was doing quite a bit, not necessarily just in terms of online, but they were doing quite a bit around store of the future. So they were helping Walmart in terms of experiential sort of retail in some of their stores. So creating sort of mini Hershey shopping shops in some of the Walmart stores to create that retail theatre to drive sales in some of those stores. So that's a good sort of store example. Great. Good. We're wrapping up to the end of question and answers. So I wrote these guys pretty good, but I think there's one question, a little bit of a perspective question here. So, really it's certainly been heating up. It seems like Amazon makes one move, Walmart makes another. So what do you think is next in this battle? And in the end, who do you think will win? Let's start with you, Danny. So what's next in the Walmart versus Amazon battle, and who do you think's going to win?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the battleground now has moved to brick and mortar. We have Amazon Go showing up in more and more markets now, which is the experience without a checker to check you out. Of course, the Whole Foods acquisition with a major push in the last couple of weeks to expand Prime membership among Whole Foods shoppers, and Amazon's clear intent to use those Whole Foods stores as distribution points for far more than just the assortment at Whole Foods. In contrast, you have Walmart rapidly expanding click and collect. They clearly have landed on a model that they feel they can run effectively and efficiently. I wouldn't necessarily say profitably. I guess that remains to be seen. It's always a big challenge, particularly outside the densest populated cities. But that's where I think we'll see the battleground really heat up and ultimately who wins. E-commerce is growing fast. It's the place to win. It is the oxygen for all products going forward. But at the end of the day, the vast majority of revenue is still happening on the brick and mortar side, even after it's been influenced by e-commerce and digital. And Amazon gets that, Walmart gets that, and the battle for the last mile is going to continue to heat up, and we'll continue to see interesting innovation in that space.
Great.
David, anything to add on that in terms of where the battle's headed?
Yeah, I just build on some of the points. I think that, it's definitely a really strong point around the battleground moving increasingly towards bricks and mortar. We're seeing, as Danny mentioned, Amazon moving increasingly into bricks and mortar retail. Its acquisition of Whole Foods. It's also offering collection services, so drive-throughs. So definitely Amazon moving into bricks and mortar. That's going to be a big battleground between Amazon and Walmart. I'd also say the reverse. You've also got the battleground of Walmart increasingly moving into working with 3P sellers. Obviously, Amazon's been doing that very, very successfully for years. So there's going to be a battleground there in online and working with some of those 3P sellers too. So yeah, I think it'll be a really, really interesting next 4 or 5 years in retail. As these two giants continue to develop their operations and their business in this space.
Great. Thank you, guys. And we'll certainly be here to offer our analysis and trends on it. Great. Well, that wraps up our content for today. Plenty of ways to get more resources on Walmart and learn how to win on Walmart from both Clavis and Planet Retail. Certainly, you could purchase PlanetRetail RNG's Omnichannel Retailer Report, just published or revised in May. You could email info@planetretail.net to get information on purchasing it, or look for the link, which will be coming in the follow-up email it's sent. You should read Clavis Insight's upcoming white paper on winning on Walmart and take a look for our July blog series. Or certainly you could schedule a meeting with Clavis Insight to discuss your Walmart digital shelf measurement needs. And then one last thing, after you leave today's webinar, there will be a survey which will pop up on your screen. Please do take the time to complete the survey. Let us know what you thought about today's content, the webinar platform, and potential topics for the future, whether it be on Walmart or other omni-channel topics in general. As a thank you for completing that survey, you'll receive access to Clavis Insight's popular white paper, Driving E-commerce Performance with 6P E-commerce Intelligence. David, Danny, thank you once again for your wonderful work in putting this content together and excellent delivery and insights today. And thank you all of you on the line for joining us today. As always, if you'd like more information on Clavis, Planet Retail, or our other sister company, One Click Retail, feel free to visit our websites. Thank you, and have a wonderful rest of the afternoon, everyone. Goodbye.